How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
The government said in order to ensure that there's a cut or reduction in expenditure, they will not fuel government officials any longer like used to happen in the past. That should be something we should all celebrate, that austere measures have been put in place so that our economy takes shape.
Well, thank you. Let me start off by saying a very good evening to your cherished listeners. The minority will welcome anything and everything that seems to position our country in a good shape, also help us in our economic recovery program, and also ensure that we also scrutinize government's policies and programs intended for the people of Ghana. Earlier today, the presidency issued a directive. We welcome the directive, but there are some critical questions that you need to ask. And that is why the minority, we are asking these critical questions on behalf of the Ghanaian people. First of all, who are the political appointee, or who is a political appointee? Does it include ministers, deputy ministers, CEOs, MDs, director generals, deputy CEOs, and deputy director generals, presidential staffers, etc.? We need an answer to that. Secondly, what is the definition of that fuel allowance? Does it mean that government will never spend 1 cedi on fuel for any political appointee when the political appointee is defined? Because we want that defined as well. Then we know that, okay, government is not going to spend 1 cedi on fuel for any political appointee. And then they use their own money. When they use their money, is the state going to reimburse it or whatsoever? Also, can we know exactly how much is being spent on this fuel allocations for government appointees and how much we intend to save with this directive? So that at the end of the day, for the committee I'm on, Committee on Public Administration and State Interest, then we can be able to also measure the savings and the quantum made. Again, what is the implication of this? How would these appointees also operate if they need fuel to facilitate their work? Let me give you typical examples as well. If you take the state-owned enterprises or the agencies of state, like the MET, like the NLA, like the MPA, like the SIC, like the Petroleum Commission and all, the CEOs also embedded in their conditions of service is also fuel allocation. Is it part of this sweeping directive or they are not part? Let me also give you a typical example. If the Minister for Communications needs to travel to Adan for a program on behalf of the state, will he buy fuel from his own pocket? We need clarity on that. On the surface, this just looks more of a PR stunt. However, if these critical questions can be answered, it will help. And last but not the least, and the most important factor, government appointees draw fuel from 2 locations. One, the Jubilee House, where there's a fuel vending depot operated by Guel. And 2, the Castle Osu, another fuel vending depot. These are the 2 places that government appointees and machinery of government draws the fuel. If you want to make that critical savings, it is a considered position of the minority then that let's shut down these fuel depots, because once you are not distributing from there, then obviously that is when you can be able to measure the savings that you have been. Other than that, it's going to be very difficult for you to even put a quantum on it. And now we've been specific. I said the 2 fuel vending depots. One at the Jubilee House, one at the Castle. And everybody knows that that is where government appointees draw the fuel from. Okay. So if you shut down these 2 posts, then we can begin to talk serious business.
Now, this action by the president is not something that's happened out of the blue. It was actually part of the promises of his party, which included...
But before you even proceed further, it's not the first time this austerity measures and cutting down costs. President Akufo-Addo 3 years ago, sometime in 2022, and I can send you video to that effect, did announce some of these directives, 30% pay cuts for himself and appointees, ministers, deputy ministers. Again, that's a full allocation, 50% cut in various institutions of state. So it's not the first time. But I believe that whereas we welcome this call from His Excellency the President, John Dramani Mahama, there are some critical questions that must also be answered. That will help us in the public scrutiny at the end of the day. And I believe that the media, too, as the fourth estate of the realm, we've given you information. We've given you the questions that we believe that can also be answered. Then at the end of the day, we can interrogate further, because else other At the end of the year, how are you even going to measure the savings, the quantum that we've been able to save, and how much are we even spending on it in the first place? Without that, how would you know the savings you've made?
Are you suggesting that the former president Akufo-Addo, when he was president, at a point slashed the allocation of fuel to appointees?
Yeah, if you don't have the video, I can share it with your colleagues.
So if that has happened and there's precedent, why are you concerned about who would be affected and how these persons would be affected? And why are you talking about
President Akufo-Addo?
No, you're talking about appointees having fuel as part of their conditions of service. How did he do it at the time?
That's what I'm saying. That President Akufo-Addo's tenure, his time, he did not scrap it. There was a reduction of the allocation to these ministers, deputy ministers, staffers, and whatsoever.
Yeah, but that would go against the conditions of service as contained in their contracts. Don't you think so?
Well, but the president,
that they no by law are entitled to. How did the president deal with it at the time so that Mahama will be guided?
So that, but Mr. Mahama has made that directive. So all the thinking that went into it. You cannot ask me to ask you.
No, but what I'm saying is that, so if you are saying that what is happening maybe flies in the face of the contractual agreement that these people have with the state, and yet you're saying it has happened before, and you're a lawyer, you know the importance of precedents, then you just rely on the precedents.
Umaru, I think maybe we are not on the same page. What I'm saying is that if you take some of the agencies of state, mind you, President Mahama's directive is also sweeping. And one, they did not even define who a political appointee is. That's why I'm asking whether you are talking about ministers, deputy ministers, CEOs, deputy CEOs, MDs, deputy MDs, and all that to be political appointees. You are talking about in excess of 5,000 of such people appointed by the president. No problem. The conditions of a minister of state is different from the conditions of a head of an agency of state. If that is also if you are able to also clearly distinguish that, apart from when the president appoints somebody as a minister of state, the person then goes through parliamentary approval. The president in that of a CEO, an MD, the director general is different. The president appoints you in consultation. In fact, the board, in consultation with the Public Services Commission, must regularize the appointment of the president. Regularize the appointment of the president. When that is also regularized, and then the Public Services Commission, together with the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, would then calculate the entitlement of this appointee. So the route is different. So once the entitlement is also calculated, and the Public Services Commission finally confirms the appointment, this head of entity can now then draw these entitlements as part of his conditions of service. Okay. So if you make this directive, then you have to go further to also make sure that the agencies of state also complies with this directive, and then the Public Services Commission, that of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, then must be notified accordingly. Other than that, it will be very difficult for you to even calculate.
In principle, is your party opposed to?
No, not at all. We are not opposed to it. Okay. We believe it's a good call, but we believe that to move beyond the PR gimmick, we need to ask these critical questions and ensure that the right thing is being done. But the NPP, I don't think, is opposed to anything that will keep our government in check, keep appointees in check, make sure the public service, the public purse is protected. But beyond this, these critical questions, if you don't answer them, we are just going to play chess game. And I'm saying there are two fuel engine vessels, one at Jubilee, one at Kasulusu. Then they must be shut down.
Maybe if you shut those, maybe they will be servicing only the president's vehicles. How about that?
The president, so the president took himself out. That's what you're saying.
No, I actually don't know. I'm just guessing. But of course, like you said, there will be need for some further clarity. We've reached out to the Jubilee House. We've not been successful in getting.
So when you do, and then
we'll put those questions in. But thank you so much for.
Thank you very much.
Wow. That's Honorable Sammi Awuku. He's Member of Parliament, MPP MP for Ikeapim North, and he's also